Happy Friday, everybody, and good Friday at that. And what better way than to have a book launch celebration on this lovely Friday. So I'm so excited for you, Francesca, and They Hide, and to celebrate it. So without further ado, I'm going to let Heather and Steve of Brigids Gate Press talk and introduce you, and we're going to get this show on the road.
Hi, everybody. It's been a pretty exciting day. Steve was sharing some stats from Amazon today that you hit number one in new release, or number
one in new releases for horror short stories.
So that's exciting. That's exciting.
And number two for bestsellers for the same category overall.
Right. So very nice, very nice. And Francesca, I think it was a tweet where you said you might tattoo it on your somewhere on your body because of the company you were keeping in that 1 through 3 rank. And I was like, yes, I could totally see that as a
Stephen King number 1. I think it was T. King Fisher for number 2. I'm like, Francesca Maria number 3. Sure.
That's a good tattoo. That's a good tattoo. I would agree. So before we go into the panel, we've started a tradition here where we talk about where the book sealed the deal for me when I green lighted it for my side. And it's because my mother read to us every night. She did all the voices and we read everything. There was no censorship growing up in my house, which was the fuel of some of my nightmares as a teenager. But so when for me, we vote. There's 3 of us and we vote, and I vote green if I can hear my mother reading the story in my head out loud. And so sometimes we've had it where it happened in the last chapter of a book, and sometimes it happens in the first paragraph of a book.
Sometimes the first 2 words.
Right. So so this is it, and this is from the first story in the book, and this is the
Wisterfield.
Yeah, Wisterfield Mysteries, right? And so this is the paragraph that did it. Goody Sarah walked, stunned, back to her cottage at the edge of town. Her head was pounding, and she heard her heartbeat inside her ears. This was not right. What could have done this to an entire family? And that's when I started to hear my mom's voice, and I got a chill down my back. It reminded me very much of my mother's rendition of the Snow Queen. Oh. And that's the cadence I read the whole rest of the story in, was what I call the Snow Queen cadence. So Francesca, I think we're going to hand it over to you to introduce the panel and kick it off.
Take it where you go.
Thank you so much. I am floored and honored to be here. And I'm so grateful that you kind of resonated with that story. It's the first story in the book, Wisterfield Murders. And it's one of my absolute favorites. So I'm glad that you liked it as well. So I want to introduce my buddies who I'm super thrilled are here today. A lot of us have been chatting with each other for a year or more online. It's the first time we're all together on screen. So I think I'm more excited that we're all together than I am about my book launch today, because I love these guys so much. So without further ado, on my screen on the bottom is Kyle Toucher, rhymes with voucher. He is the founder and lead frontman for Dr. No, which is a punk band in Southern California. My husband's a huge fan of. Not only is he a rockin' musician, well, still rockin' musician, but also he's got a couple of Emmys on his belt too. He's been slacking the last few years, just a couple of Emmys, and he's got a book coming out next week called Live Wire from Crystal Lake Publishing, which I'm super thrilled about. And then he had Life Returns, which is a PDF based on, an ebook based on one of his Dr. No songs. And it's a fantastic gothic horror, creepy haunted house, creepy scenes. It's on Amazon right now for free. So everybody needs to check that out. So I'm super excited that Kyle's here. Next, we've got Gregg Stewart, who is extremely talented as well, singer-songwriter for many, many years and decades, extraordinary writer as well, and a very talented wife, I might add, and a huge, big supporter of myself, and I can't thank Gregg enough for being here. Ben Monroe is the author of The Seething, also from Brigids Gate Press, and I'm a big fan of his. He's been so helpful to me over the years. We're members of the local HWA chapter. He was one of the first guys I met, one of the nicest guys, and showed me the ropes, what I needed to do to get out there. We both pitched dark at the same time. We both got picked up from Brigids Gate at the same time. So we've been kind of on this train together, and it's been great to have you as a partner for this. So thanks, Ben. And then we have Jay Bechtol. I'm so excited to have Jay here too. Jay, I'm going to get a little teary. I might get teary. Jay is the first person who was not my friend or family who saw my writing and just retweeted it and said something like, you should check this out. And you don't know what that meant to me. That was like validation to the nth degree. Because for 20 years, I only wrote for myself. Nobody else saw it. And to have that kind of external validation was just, it kept me going. And so really for all of you guys, I would not be here if it wasn't for each and every one of you. So thank you, Jay. Also a very talented author who wrote The Great American Coward. So please check that out as well. And then my fantastic publicist, Nikki, you've been sending me phenomenal stuff. I've been enjoying the ride. You've helped to get my book up to be, where it is right now for its launch. And I'm, again, like I said before, eternally grateful. So thank you everyone for being here. I'm super excited. And I feel like this has been a communal effort. And so I'm glad that you guys are here to celebrate it with me. So thanks.
Well, we're glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would love to hear if you guys have had a chance to kind of look through They Hide, if there's like a favorite story that popped out for you, and if so, what it is and why. So take it away. Whoever wants to jump in first.
Game of Ghost.
Oh, Game of Ghost. How come?
Yeah, I love the idea that the Sinister card game is actually, is the culprit behind it. Because in the book, the theme, there's a lot of, there in a few of the stories, there's a dark entity just on the outside of, the human realm, casting influence and, and molding and people's reaction, their fear of the unknown, but in this one, there's a tangible thing. It's this game that this kid's playing, and you kind of do it in a sort of the epistolary format, with letters and all that, which is, when that's done right, that's always a win. That's been working since Nathaniel Hawthorne. I mean, that format, and Crystal Lake's doing an epistolary book too. So, which I think will be fun. But I like that one the best. That's the one that stood out the best. That is the coolest. I could see that as an episode of Creepshow.
Nice, awesome. Thank you so much. Awesome, thanks.
I also really love the Game of Ghosts. I'm sorry, Greg, you want to go first?
No, you're great.
I'm already talking. So, Game of Ghosts I thought was fun. I've been a gamer all my life. I've worked in the games industry, tabletop mostly, and it really just felt like this is the kind of horrible thing somebody would find and just start messing with. I also have to admit, I have been working on my own story very similar to that. So it's kind of like, well, I guess it's a good idea. Francie did it. But since we're probably going to talk about that a lot, the other one I loved was Spreckles. And not going too much into it, without giving anything away, it felt to me like if Robert Bloch had written an episode of a Rankin Bass Christmas special back in the 60s, that's what we would have got. It had that sort of Lovecraftian weirdness.
The old people laugh.
Yeah, right. We get it.
Humor. I mean, it was just so Robert Bloch to me. So Spreckles, which I think closes out the collection. So everyone who reads this has that to look forward to as the ultimate piece.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben.
I love that. I was going to say, one of the things, I think, everyone here is kind of amazing horror writers. And I came to horror later. And I think the things that I read as a kid is I was that kid who dived into epics. Like my mother put Don Quixote in front of me and things like Count of Monte Cristo, and so I love The Gathering because it reminds me the stories within a story, deeper stories, just down the rabbit hole of stories within a story just made it feel like even in a short story, it felt epic to me. And I think one of the things that it really captures is the thing that I love most about your writing, Francesca, is this way in which you bring empathy to characters we wouldn't normally have empathy for. And I think there's something about In the Gathering that really highlights that thing you do so well.
Oh,
And
thank
I
you.
love that one. I love that one. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I like The Gathering too. It's also I think it's the longest story in the collection. Maybe I'm wrong, but so it's a short story. It's a long short story. It also had sort of a little bit of a Walpurgis feel to it for Kyle there. At the beginning, that old world magic kind of thing happening. Like you've hit on the ones I liked. The other one that you haven't hit on that I really enjoyed was My Brother Andy. And what was interesting about it is I read your foreword, your author's note or whatever at the beginning that said you grew up in a haunted house, Francesca. And then My Brother Andy is written in first person, and the whole time I'm reading it, I'm like, oh my God, how much of this happened to Francesca? How much of this is based on real experience? Basements and attics and all that kind of stuff. Okay, those are spooky, but then this dark entity like Kyle was mentioning, grabs him and then infiltrates him. And I really liked it because, again, going back to what Gregg was just saying about that humanistic thing that you have, where you have relatable characters, easy to relate to an older sister wanting to protect her younger brother and something bad happening. I really liked that one. So I also like the Chupacabra one. I really like short pieces that are kind of flash fiction-y. And there's something kind of fun about it. And plus I like the Chupacabra.
Who doesn't?
It's a good campfire story.
Yes.
So you want to go next? Tell
You
your
go
favorite
first.
story. Well, I have two, and I'm the publisher, so I get to cheat and have two. So mine is A Game of Ghosts and the Westerfield Murders. And
you got it right.
Yes. And I think, one, I'm a fool for historical horror. And I think that we're starting to see more of it in short stories again, and in anthologies and in books. And I can't wait. Like, I hope the market is flooded with it soon. Like, every corner you turn, there's a historical horror. And then with Game of Ghosts, I'm also a fool for stories told through letters, journals, police reports.
Format.
Yeah. And so, and I blame my parents, but I love it. I mean, like, before I even read the first word of the story, I was like, this is going to be so good. I know it's going to be so good. And, and you pulled it off so well, because one of the things that can fall apart when you tell a story in that format is it's hard to feel the feelings of characters sometimes, because it can be so formal and sometimes it can come off as cold, but it was so real. And the thing I love about it is how the brother feels so responsible, because the one thing that if you know anything about missing children, any sibling who's present or didn't protect the sibling that goes missing holds so much guilt about it, whether it's reasonable or not. Like, it's a normal sibling reaction. And it was so real just reading it, and you pulled it off in like 3 sentences. And I was like, well done, well done, well done. I mean, it was so good. It was so good. So I love the format and I love the story in that one.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm blushing. I'm blushing.
Well, I mean, my single favorite was also A Game of Ghosts. And I think it's been covered well enough. We've covered all the points. So I don't really have anything new to add to it. I agree with what everybody else has said.
Yeah.
I do want to say thank you to Jay for bringing it up first, because I've seen the word epistolary many, many times, and I've never heard it said out loud. And I was worried if I go first, I'm going to say it epistolatory or something, and everybody's going to look at me like, so thank you. I also want to say, the point where I thought, okay, yes, we really have to publish this. It was after I had read the Westerfield Murders, and then I was jumping around in the book, and I happened to read The Perfect Partner.
Because he's one of those people who doesn't read it in order.
Right.
He is.
Yeah, anthologies or collections, I go by titles, and I'll just jump around.
And he drives me crazy putting ours in order, but he doesn't read them in order. So I tell him every time, I'm like, I don't want to fight about it anymore. You don't read it in order. People read it are going to read it in order. So.
But I read The Perfect Partner second, and I really enjoyed it. I can't say it's my favorite out of the whole book because you write a lot of really wonderful things, but it was that story that, and if you remember, I turned to you and I said, she's been influenced by Clive Barker.
Yeah.
When I read the story, and
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I need to read more here. And
that was your green light moment.
And I think we're going with this.
Yeah, that was your green light go moment.
I'm looking for my Books of Blood copies right now. I think I've got, yes, Books of Blood.
Yeah.
Wait.
Weave World? Let's see, Weave World.
I've got this. So Cold Heart Canyon, it's signed. I met him. Yeah.
Well done.
Oh,
Nice.
that's lovely.
That's awesome.
There's some
Yeah.
great stuff in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough. So the Game of Ghosts, it's interesting. It started off as a dream. I had a dream of this woman screaming, "Where's my baby? Where's my baby?" And she was in a park. And she said, she was talking to a police officer, my baby went up to a slide. She didn't come down. And that's what started the story. I had no idea where it was going to go, what it meant, but I had that dream probably 10 or 15 years ago. And just, had the impetus to figure out how to tell it through the collection. And I've never done an epistle story before. So it was also a way for me to kind of flex my muscles and just try something new. That was kind of what I was doing with all of these stories, is like, okay, how do I do something I haven't done before? First person, letters, documents, historical fiction, drama, erotica. Can I just put everything, what kind of bags of tricks do I have? And can I smash them all together in a way that makes sense? So I'm glad that you guys liked it. And it's so interesting to me to hear, who liked what, I think that says a lot about a person too, but which story they gravitate towards. So thank you guys for sharing that. So given that this is all about horror tropes, who or what is your favorite horror trope and why? And I'm going to skip and not answer until the very end. So how about Mickey? We haven't heard from you yet. You want to talk about your favorite horror trope?
So I'll do this, but can someone explain to me what a horror trope is? And then I'll verify that, because I don't know.
I had the same question, and I was worried I was going to get called on first. And I was like, I don't know how to answer.
I don't mind as the publicist to be blatantly
I
uneducated about this, but I would like to know what it is, because I probably have done it.
I saw Amy's face when you started with the game. Her eyes got so big, and I was like, oh, I better text her.
Like, don't call on me, teacher. Don't call on me.
No, I'm good. But when a teacher calls on me, if I don't know what it is, I'm going to ask what it is. So what's a horror trope?
Yeah. So famous, like, let's think of monsters. So a witch would be a horror trope, or a serial killer could be a horror trope, or a vampire, werewolf, or zombie, or
okay. It's got to be Dracula, hands down, because I've read that book like 25 times.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
And there's a reason why the Bram Stoker Award is named the Bram Stoker Award.
That's
it's
right.
because of that book.
Agreed.
Hope I passed the audition. Anyways, just FYI.
Yes. You've maintained your horror cool card. So okay. Good job.
Thanks.
Good job.
All right.
How about you, Amy?
Oh man, now I gotta follow Mickey, man, with him and Dracula. Oh my gosh.
Just go with Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, Frankenstein's pretty cool too, but I mean, I'm a sucker for zombies. So really anything that has zombies in it is kind of my thing. I don't have like a set in stone one. So I guess I lose my horror cool card on that one, but that's okay. That's cool. But yeah, no, I like zombies. So
zombies are great. There's no shame in zombies.
Oh, I'm telling you, if I could have like a bunker and be prepared, I would totally do that, because one day I'm hopeful that that's going to happen. I'm going to survive it. I feel ready. Okay, I've watched enough of The Walking Dead. I feel ready. Okay, that's how we're doing it. I'm just saying. But.
That's awesome. All right, we're all coming to Amy's house. There's a zombie apocalypse. Anybody else want to go next?
Yeah, you know what? I am definitely a vampire guy. Certainly, I love Dracula. I love Interview with a Vampire. But I think there's even a subset that seems to catch me every time, and it's the creepy kid. Like in like Interview with the Vampire, it's really just Claudia. I think is just the most compelling character to me. She's unbelievable. And then another book that probably one of the first books to truly kind of terrify me. One of those things that I was listening to the audiobook and had to pause on multiple occasions was Anya Alborn's The Bird Eater. Again, creepy kid, next level. And I don't know, there's something about the possessed child. The Exorcist is another one of the movie I saw way too early in life.
Oh yeah.
That kind of possessed demonic child is the thing that I don't know why it sucks me in, but it always scares me.
Mm-hmm. Damien from The Omen, that kid messed me up. Yep.
Yeah, the creepy kid is it's hard to go wrong there. I mean, I guess anything can be done poorly. You can fuck up scrambled eggs if you don't know what you're doing, but you know. But the creepy kid thing, and the things about The Exorcist too. You know, she was more or less innocent about it. It just took her, even though she was playing with Captain Howdy on the Ouija board and opened up that portal and allowed the demon in. You know, and we have to Exorcist 2 notwithstanding, of course. You know, and but for me, there just has to be a supernatural element. You know, and with vampires, like Gregg was saying, I like you know, sexy vampire in velvet isn't really my bag, but I really dug 30 Days of Night because they were feral. You know, they were just stone killers, and so they're up there in Jay's neighborhood. You know, what a great idea! Of course, you're going to go above the Arctic Circle. You know, where it's just going to be nonstop hunting. I'd never read the graphic novel. I didn't know anything about it till the film came out, and it has one of the best axe decapitations on film. And I mean, just a nasty one. But so I like feral vampires, and I just like there to be something from elsewhere, something from somewhere else that's infringing on normalcy or reality, or just your life, just your existence. Everything's suddenly turned upside down. You know, I think that's just it's the unknown in your normal everyday life. You know, I think can be just terrifying, and it doesn't. And in real life, there's enough of that anyway, right? Your cat's got kidney disease. That's, you know, the unknown
terrifying.
Coming in, you know, that kind of stuff. And
many levels.
When you put the pedal down and there's beasties from elsewhere, that's when it gets spooky. So I'm going to have to take off soon, though, because I got to go down the hill. So I don't want to eat up any more of your time. Thanks for having me, Francesca. Congratulations.
I'm
glad your numbers are good. So, and everybody I'm glad everybody's enjoying it and that it's going to get popular. It sounds like Game of Ghosts is going to catch fire and you're going to see it on Creepshow.
And we'll do this again for you next week for your book launch.
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll see. I'm not sure what's going on out here at a secure, undisclosed location. Nice to see you there, Uncle Jay. Homie from
Good to see you, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle.
Greg.
Take care, Kyle.
Okay, everybody. Sorry I got to take off, but I got to. So
all good.
No problem. Take care.
We'll see you guys. Good night.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too.
Take care.
Hi, Francesca. Just wanted to pop in and say congrats.
Hi,
Congrats.
thank you so much. Thanks, Renee.
Yeah. Hi.
So excited.
How did the recording go?
We're doing the whole recording of the audiobook.
The audio.
Yeah.
TBD. Well, yeah, that's something we can talk about a little bit later. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I just wanted to say congrats.
Thank you.
Hi,
Thank you so
everybody.
much. Bye. Yeah, Barrow, Alaska. The 30 Days of Night. That is a fantastic comic, and they did a great job with the movie. Jay, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm being in Alaska, or
I know all of it.
the tropes.
The tropes.
It's so interesting because I'm not a particular horror fan. I'm like Greg or like Kyle was starting to say, I'm into the every person surviving unnatural situations. Whether it's witches or vampires or aliens or the guy next door who turns out to be a Nazi. It's fascinating to me. I love watching the every person survive extraordinary situations. The that character development when you're saying this is complete crap. There's no way there's a vampire living next door to me. Vampires are fake. Vampires are bogus. To slowly realize, okay, maybe this guy's vampire-like, to, oh my God, this guy's a vampire. And then that resolution, whether you win or lose, is kind of not even relevant. I like a vampire winning as much as the everyman winning story, as long as I'm compelled by that everyman character. So I don't know if that's fair, because I think most good horror stories have that what the hell's going on component to it, but that's what I love about them. So
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I would 100% agree with you. You've got to, as the reader, you've got to be pulled in and have empathy for the characters, what they're exploring, what's happening to them, whether it's supernatural or the serial killer next door. You kind of need to feel their terror, feel their suspense, feel their disbelief of, is this really happening or not? That's, I think, psychological thrillers. Those are some of my jams as well. Let's see, Ben, how about you? Have you gone yet?
No, so it's funny, what I was going to say, it sort of spins off what you and Jay were just talking about. My probably favorite trope, and when I say favorite, it's like, of all my favorites, my favorite. I love, and probably unsurprising to anybody who's read this evening, I love small town weirdness. Especially, what I really enjoy is a story, how do I describe, a small town area where everyone knows each other, but really nobody knows the secret of what's going on in the town, or in the area. And there was a lot of that in a lot of Lovecraft's early stuff, the Dunwich horror, where everyone kind of knew what was going on with the people in their neighborhood, but then up on the hill, there's all the really weird stuff going on. And to me, having grown up in kind of a small town, I grew up in Berkeley, California, which is not really a small town, but the area I grew up in felt small. It always sort of felt like, how well do you really know your neighbors? You nod to them as you walk around, and you assume they're not serial killers and cannibals and things, but they don't invite you down in the basement to see, so who knows, right?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, small town horror. I think all of us, especially living in different parts of the United States, can relate to that. And like we said, for your book launch, California is very vast and very unpopulated. Yep. You don't have to drive too far to be completely lost in the wilderness. Jay probably just has to walk outside, and he's lost in the wilderness up in Alaska. Heather and Steve?
Okay. Well, it's kind of a tough question for me to answer because I like so many different stories in the horror genre. Werewolves are a big one for me. Yeah. I've always been partial to that.
Shapeshifters.
Yeah, shapeshifters. Where I don't know what necessarily, but I feel drawn to those stories. I really enjoy them. The whole idea of, whether it's only on the night of the full moon or they can do it at other times, but the whole idea of just the wildness, the beast side taking over. And transforming the person into a monster. I've always liked that. But I also like ones that have to do with the devil, especially bargains with the devil, or trying to deal with the devil, or match wits with him, anything like that. And probably one of the most effective horror movies I've seen. Oh no, my mind's going blank. The one with Mickey Rourke. What's the name of it?
Angel Heart?
Angel
Yeah.
Heart. Angel Heart. Thank you.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Yeah. That one I really loved. One, because of that whole thing, and that was because it was such of a mystery too, what had happened when you finally realize what's going on. But also that a lot of it takes place in and around New Orleans. I enjoyed that as well.
Because he's from New Orleans.
So anything to do with voodoo or
creepy, weird New Orleans stuff. Yeah.
So that's me. I'll turn it over to you now.
Awesome. So favorites, that's hard for me because 3 years ago I wouldn't have said I liked horror. And
wait. You are a publisher mainly of horror.
Yeah, this is correct. So
until she found out she'd been reading horror all her life, and actually
right.
liked I had
Right.
no idea what she
Right.
was
One
reading
of
was.
us.
Right.
One of us.
Right. So it's why when we were looking for publicists, it's like we got to get somebody who will help us reach every market, because if I don't think I read horror, I guarantee you there are other people who don't think they read horror.
That's right.
And they're reading horror. I mean, listen, I'm going to sound like a 14-year-old girl, and I can only blame my parenting. But we grew up reading the real Grimm's fairy tales. I mean, the gruesome Grimm's fairy tales. And my mom does a witch's voice that would curl your toes. And so, like, I am a huge fan of like fairy tale horror, folk horror, but also I was between the ages of 12 and 14 when we first read Dracula and Frankenstein. And so when people are always like, what's your favorite book? It's always either Frankenstein or, oh, hell, we're getting old. What's the one with Heathcliff and
Wuthering Heights.
Wuthering Heights.
Oh, yeah.
Don't tell my mother. But she read those back to back. And so like they're kind of like stuck in my brain together, even though they're not related. So I'm like, well, it's one of these two. And listen, I know my son would say, Mom, that's very 14-year-old girl stuff to say, but it's true. And I've got a secret love affair with vampires, I think, because of Dracula and the other one that we read right after it by Fanu. How do you say that guy's name? Fanu.
Sheridan Le Fanu.
Yes.
Through a Glass
Camilla.
Darkly and those short stories. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so Carmilla, the vampire. Oh, it's good. It's good. And so that's kind of wrapped up with Bram Stoker in my head, because my mom kind of went through a vampire period where we read like 4 vampire stories, and then we read I won't call them monster stories because the monster's really the doctor, but that's also when we got into Hawthorne and Poe, is right after Shelley. Mm-hmm. So I as it turns out, apparently I love it all. So which is why I guess we publish it all. But I do love, I guess I love all of them. But if you really want to catch my eye, it's always a fairy tale or a folk horror first. I'm like, oh wait, have we read that? Do we have that? Yeah.
You know, and you said something that resonates a lot with me, which is people don't realize they're reading horror.
Yeah.
You know, it's categorized in so many other genres, mystery thriller, suspense. One of my really good friends wrote a phenomenal novel, and it's a horror book. There's about a third of it that's a horror book. And I told her, you know, you wrote horror. She's like, no, I didn't. I'm like, yes, you did. You explore the nature of fear. These people were helpless. They had this other coming in and taking away their livelihood. Like, that was scary. And it completely like flipped a switch in her head. I could tell. And a lot of people that I've been doing all these interviews thanks to Nikki, and they ask, why do you write horror? I'm like, well, it's just the nature of fear. For me, it's just the exploration of fear. And chances are you've got tons of horror in your bookshelves right now. You're watching horror. You're talking about horror. It's not necessarily slasher, blood and guts. So it can be. That's just a very small subgenre of it. Again, for me, it's this larger idea, this larger exploration of what scares me. Lack of control, lack of power.
Right.
Those are the things that scare me. And you'll see those quite a bit in a lot of my writings. For me, horror tropes, I love them all, obviously, because I wrote a horror trope book collection because I love them all. But I'd have to say, looking at my books, I think I have more ghost story books than I do witches or vampires. Vampires are close second. Maybe it's because of the haunted house I grew up in. Maybe because I'm a psychic medium. I can see, hear, and feel ghosts. I don't know, but ghosts seem to be more frightening to me because they can show up anywhere, unannounced, uninvited, unlike vampires who, according to tradition, you need to have them invited in order to then cross over the threshold. Ghosts don't have those kind of boundaries or limitations, and they can show up at any point, any time, and they could be good ghosts or not so good ghost, and lots of things in between. And so for me, I think I'd have to stick with ghosts as far as my favorite.
Francesca, I just want to say one thing if I can, because something you said triggered me, and you are one of the most well-rounded authors that I work with, out of the 100 I work with. You write in the horror vein, but a combination goes to nonfiction, it goes to thriller, it goes to mystery, it goes to comic book mediums, it goes to all of that. And the one thing I want to say is never lose that, because that's shows your talents, it shows your influence, it shows everything in your writing. And these are all reasons why your book hit #1, because it not only hits the horror aspect, it hits all kinds of other aspects that other horror writers strive to reach for, but they can't. So I just wanted you to know that.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mickey. That means the world to me. Really. Thank you.
This is the episode where Mickey makes everyone cry.
Yeah.
Mickey, stop it, Mickey.
I'm not trying to make you cry. I only speak the truth. And I'm going to get bombarded with emails from horror writers now. I'm like, why didn't you say that about me? I'm like, well, the moment wasn't there, but the moment was there. So I wanted to say it because it's true. It's true.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That means a lot. Thank you. Well, let's see. I guess we might be wrapping it up. I would love to hear, how people can find you guys, all you talented writers out there. So websites, books coming out, dates, whatever you want to share and promote, please, by all means.
Well, I'll go. I'm easy. You could just find me on Twitter. That's easy. So I'm under Great Stewart, GR with an 8 Stewart. I did originally have the very clever idea to be GR with a 0 for egg, Gregg Stewart. And then I realized everyone read it as Gross Stewart. Wasn't going to work. So I went with Greg.
Well, and Greg, you've got a couple of novels and some amazing novellas that you're looking for homes for, right?
That's true. I've been writing like a little banshee, but I'm a little secretive about it. But yes, I do. I've got 3 novels I've written and 2 novellas, and I really just have been spending a lot of my time just trying to get some short stories out there, get my work out there. Yeah. Coming from as a musician and just being on a label and working and like touring and spending so much of that feels like a different chapter of my life, but then transitioning into writing and really getting a bug for more long form storytelling from just songwriting. I used to tell myself I don't have the patience to write more than 3 verses and a chorus, but once I figured out I could, it just took a hold of me and I just wrote like a maniac. But I thought I really like writing short stories and submitting them, and where we met through Crystal Lake's Shallow Waters contest series. It's like getting a gig again, but as a writer, just doing little gigs and open mic nights and things like that. And that's what I wanted to do first to kind of really get my sea legs, and then maybe find a home for the work later. But yeah. Always writing. It's important to me.
I love that. It does feel like little gigs too, because a lot of us here are musicians. It does feel that's a great analogy. And Heather and Steve, if you're listening, very talented writer right there, looking for a home for his stuff.
Thank you. Awesome. Who else? Get a hold of, you find Jay. Jay, I love his tweets. I love following all you guys on Twitter. Ben as well.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. That's where you can find me. or if you're in Alaska and
come to
Homer, Alaska, stop by, and I don't drink, but I'll buy you a beer, because we have as many bars in Homer as we do anything else. So.
How close is that to Barrow?
So about as far away as you can get from each point. So
got it.
It's a little over 1,400 miles from here up to Point Barrow, which a few years ago reverted to its original name. It's Utqiagvik now. So, but Homer is about 200 miles south of Anchorage. So.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. I think I did a comic on Alaska, this town that goes kind of missing because of a Bigfoot sighting in Alaska, and doing the research for it, I was just shocked at how vast it is. It's basically like a third of the United States, and most of it's unpopulated. And it's just more people go missing in Alaska per capita than any of the lower 48. So it's a fascinating Bermuda Triangle state in and of itself.
That's a creepy statistic. More people go missing in Alaska than anywhere
I was
else.
gonna say, like, is this
No.
like a horror story? That's what I was gonna say. Like, oh my gosh, are we segueing? Because I'm not getting it. I'm terrified. Like, I don't think you'll catch me in Alaska because I don't do cold weather. But still, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's like
Really, the
Canada.
vampires,
Welcome to
right?
my world. Same thing.
What's that? Say it again.
It's like Canada. Welcome to my world. Same thing. It was like minus 58 last week. Just saying. Anyways,
Wow.
you want
That's
to talk
insane.
horror? Let's talk cold weather. Anyway.
That literally made me shiver. Like, I kid you not.
Case in
Like
point.
that statement made me shiver. Just no.
So I'm
No.
changing my answer from Dracula to cold weather, Francesca. Just know that.
Is there like a
Wendigos.
subgenre for like cold? Like I guess there is climate horror, right?
There absolutely is.
Yeah.
Like, I call it
Yeah.
Arctic horror.
You know, that brings to mind, based on what Mickey and Amy were just saying about the cold, I think probably my all-time favorite horror movie still is John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yes.
Not so, and I mean, because the alien is scary in and of itself, but even if you can survive it, you're in the middle of this place where you're probably going to freeze to death. You're not making it out of here, probably.
How?
And they
Yeah,
always
there's nowhere
hurt the
to
dogs, Steve. They always hurt the dogs. It drives me batty. Anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm with you, Mickey. Leave the poor animals alone.
Yes. Leave the animals alone. Anyway.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. And how about you, Ben?
Yeah, so you find me at benmonroe.com. That's pretty easy to remember. And I'm on Twitter at _benmonroe_. Somebody else had the plain old Ben Monroe when I got on Twitter, so that was sad. But maybe he'll vanish mysteriously someday and I can get the other one.
Jay should invite him to Alaska. Yeah, invite him to
Where the Bigfoot vampires live, right?
It's fine.
Awesome. Well, that's all I have. So Amy, Mickey, Heather, Steve, anything else you guys want to add? Anybody else want to add anything else?
I mean, just one last huge congratulations, I think, is in order. And number one is massive. So really, just super excited and proud of you, and just awesome job, and so grateful I could just hop on, and thanks for inviting me to be a part of this, to celebrate with you.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. It means so much to me.
Of course.
Absolutely ditto.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay.
That would be it for our wrap up. It's just congratulations, and we're glad it's out into the
Absolutely.
world.
Yeah.
So it's been, like all of them, it's been a ride. And no piracy. 2 books in a row now.
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
And
Heather,
I'm
we
still-
now have a reputation. They know not to mess with us. Let's put
That's
it
what
Good.
I will not be returning the pirate ship, however. I am keeping that and the flag. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, and Heather and Mickey, I can't, again, thank you enough for taking a chance, and They Hide. It really has made this, little girl's dream come true for decades now. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, Francesca, congratulations on being #1 for They Hide. Everybody go and grab your copy because it's amazing. And evidently there's a favorite. So make sure you read that story within there. Okay. I'm just saying there's a crowd favorite going on. But thank you so much for letting me host it and just to be a part of it and to work with you. It has been such a wonderful time. So everybody, we hope you all have a fantastic rest of your Friday and Good Friday. Go out and read They Hide by Francesca. But until next time, everybody, bye for now.